continue our previews here on Send It In. We'll start with a little college football and the Wisconsin Badgers. And as you guys know, we're going to do a lot of these previews leading up to the college football season. You might not see a schedule as tough as the one that you're going to see on your screen right now. Wisconsin's got the toughest schedule in the Big Ten and arguably one of the toughest schedules in all of college football. Why is that? Well, just look at their Big Ten schedule alone, right? They got to go at Michigan. They got to go at Oregon, at Indiana. They got to play Illinois at home, Ohio State at home, Washington at home, Iowa at home. They're pretty much playing all of the top teams in the Big Ten Conference outside of Penn State and USC. Really difficult schedule. And then, on top of that, you got a road trip to Tuscaloosa this year as well to take on Alabama in week 3. It's a really difficult schedule for Wisconsin. A big reason why their win total this year is sitting at 5.5, and the over is plus 140. So really the big question this year when betting Wisconsin, if you're looking at their win total, do you think the Badgers are going to make a bowl game this season? Yes or no? If you do, take the over win total, over 5.5 at plus 140. If you don't, the under is minus 165. Don't know if you want to lay that kind of juice, but that's pretty much what it is. With this schedule that Wisconsin has, odds makers think that there's a less likely chance the Badgers do not make a bowl this season than they do. Some things that are in favor for Wisconsin this year is they've just had really tough injury luck. The first couple of years that Luke Fickell has been in Madison, he's lost both of his starting quarterbacks early on in the season, and they've had to play the rest of the season with all these backups. What do we know about Wisconsin that's been true for the last 10 plus years? Always great on the defensive side of the ball, really tough, hard-nosed on the offensive side of the ball. They want to run the football, they want to punch you in the face, but they don't really have elite skill weapons on the outside, right? They normally have some really good running backs, good tight ends, but as far as those game-breaking receivers, elite top-tier quarterbacks, they just don't have that. So when Wisconsin's number 1 quarterback goes down, it's just really hard for their number 2 quarterback to win a lot of these games in a difficult Big Ten. So hopefully year 3 for Luke Fickell has better injury luck this time around. They're going to have Billy Edwards Jr. starting for them, who transfers in from Maryland. Billy's a nice player, good dual threat athlete, can really run, good in short yardage, but obviously can he give Wisconsin that lift in the passing game going up against some of these defenses that he's going to see this season? I didn't do anything with Wisconsin's win total. I do kind of lean towards the under, but I don't want to lay minus 165. The reason I would probably take the under with Wisconsin is, again, you look at their schedule, and really there are only 3 games that jump out at you that you think the Badgers are absolutely going to win for the most part. Miami of Ohio, week 1, Middle Tennessee, week 2, and Maryland at home, week 4. You would feel pretty confident about Wisconsin winning all those games. Outside of that, probably not many games that you would look at and feel good that Wisconsin is going to win. At Michigan, probably going to lose that one. At Alabama, probably going to lose that one. At Oregon, home against Ohio State. These are probably games that they're all going to lose. At Indiana as well. The Iowa game at home, definitely could win that one. The Washington game at home, definitely could win that one. And then also the road game at Minnesota, the home game at Illinois, all games that they could win. The problem is I don't see Wisconsin really built to shock any of those teams that they're going to need to upset if they probably go over this win total. And you're just putting too much pressure on them to win all those 50-50 games, where if you're betting a win total, you're looking at, all right, those are the games that they're going to need to win if I'm going to cash my win total. Just think there's too much that has to go right this year for the Badgers for you to go over that. So staying away from Wisconsin, what a gauntlet that they have. It would be awesome for them to make a bowl game and cash their win total. Would be a great step in the right direction for Luke Fickell and his program. But he just needs his quarterback to stay healthy. Needs that for the first time in 3 years. So be an interesting season for Wisconsin, but I do not want to get involved with them at all. How about the Minnesota Vikings? Let's look at them in the NFC North. Now, obviously, we've been doing a lot of previews with these NFC North teams, right? We've talked Packers, we've talked Bears, we've looked at how both of those schedules are absolutely brutal. We're going to look at the Detroit Lions tomorrow. Their schedule is also really tough. I think Minnesota, on paper, has the easiest schedule of the 4 NFC North teams, and the big reason being the Vikings only play one true road game before week 8. Just one true road game before week 8 until they got to take on the Chargers in LA in October 23rd, right? You might see a lot of verses on the screen here. That's because, remember, the Vikings have those 2 back-to-back games in London this year against Pittsburgh and Cleveland. So even though they got to travel across the pond, not true road games. That's going to be neutral site. So think about all those games early on in the season where Minnesota is either going to be home or they're going to be on a neutral site. Week 1, they play on the road at the Bears on Monday Night Football. And then after that, they don't have to play at another road stadium until week 8. All these NFC North schedules are really tough. I think that's a pretty advantageous one for Minnesota. You also keep in mind the fact that they probably have one of the best coaching staffs in the NFL, right? KOC is a terrific head coach, one of the best play callers. Brian Flores, one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL as well. The fact that there's a lot of continuity there in Minnesota, that those guys have been together now for a good amount of time, that obviously helps them. There's a lot to like with this Minnesota team. They got a good offensive line. They have arguably the best receiver in the NFL in Justin Jefferson. Aaron Jones had a nice season for them. Minnesota the last couple years, though, has been one of those teams that it feels like they've really won more games than they maybe should have, right? We talk about a lot of times all these teams across so many sports that maybe lost more games than they should have or won more games that they should have. Feels like Minnesota's been on the right side of winning a lot of these one-score games. And a lot of that probably has to do with their coaching, and you got to give them credit for that. They were the best team in the NFL last year at forcing turnovers. Their defense was terrific at getting after the quarterback. They should be great in both of those departments again this year. One of the more underrated moves of the offseason was getting Jonathan Allen from the Commanders on that defensive line. I like Minnesota a lot, and I think their team could be really good. But J.J. McCarthy, what is he going to look like as a pro? What's he going to look like in his rookie season? None of us know. And that's the bet with Minnesota. So when I look at their futures odds and when I look at their bets of what to do with Minnesota, their win total's at 9.5. The over is plus 105. The under is minus 125. For the Vikings to make the playoffs, it's minus 115. To the yes, it's minus 105. To the no, if you want to bet them to win the division, they're 4-1. If you want to bet them to win the Super Bowl, they're 25-1. I don't think betting the Vikings to win the division is a bad bet at all. I think that's a really good bet, right? Any of these teams to win the NFC North, you can make a case for. And again, just like we were talking about Chicago the other day, that's the only thing I would bet with the Bears is for them to win the division. It's probably the same thing with Minnesota. The only bet I would make is for them to win the division. I would be a little more inclined to bet the win total with the Vikings than I would with the Bears, just because I could certainly see the Bears season being a little bit more difficult than the Vikings season would be. But we just don't know how good J.J. McCarthy is. At Michigan, he had such a good coach, he had such a good defense, and he had such a good supporting cast that he really didn't need to do all that much. And Bo Nix was kind of put in the same situation this past year in Denver, where he was in a great college situation, especially when he was at Oregon. Then you go into the pros in Denver. You got a terrific defense. You got a great head coach in Sean Payton. They put him in a great situation. And McCarthy is in a great situation as well. So I certainly think there's a better chance that he succeeds than he doesn't. But with all that being said, you got to expect some regression from Minnesota after going 14-3 last year. Now the question is, will they regress to a 10-11 win team or to an 8 or 9 win team? I think it's too close to call. 9.5 is the perfect number. I'm staying away from the Minnesota Vikings for the upcoming season.